Imagine a witch who was buried alive centuries ago for bringing a dead baby back to life. And now, a dying girl with cancer goes to that same witch, begging to be healed in just 3 days. By the time the ritual is over, there's blood, snakes, and something that looks like a newborn where a tumor used to be. The movie opens with a naked, blood-soaked woman making love to corpses while talking about the beauty of death. The scene cuts to a filthy cabin swarming with flies and littered with dead animals. We see the same woman again, now much older. Her name is Solveig, and she seems to be a witch in the middle of a ritual. Elsewhere, a girl named Mickey plays piano, enjoying her last moments at college before summer break. A worried friend asks if it is back, but Mickey brushes it off and insists she's fine. They promise to see each other in a couple of months and say goodbye. Moments later, Mickey's father, Jake, picks her up, and they drive off toward an unknown destination. Jake asks what her friends think about what they're planning, but Mickey admits she hasn't told them anything. The scene then returns to Solveig, wandering alone through the woods. She comes across a dead deer crawling with flies, approaches it, and begins chanting. In another scene, Mickey and Jake stop at a roadside diner where he asks how she found the woman they're going to meet. Still nervous, Mickey says the woman contacted her first and gives no more details. That night, father and daughter stay at a motel. They reminisce about Mickey's late mother and both get emotional. Out in the forest, Solveig stands completely still as dozens of flies suddenly pour out of her mouth. Back at the motel, Mickey jolts awake and sees a bizarre piece of flesh smeared across the wall, which vanishes after a few seconds. The next morning, they continue deeper into a remote area. On the way, Jake stops the car and asks if she's really sure about this. Mickey says yes, admits it might sound like a scam, but says she wants to try. Jake worries about paying this mysterious woman, but Mickey says it's free. That only unsettles him more. He tells her nothing in life is free and they need to be careful. Eventually, they arrive at an old cabin that looks like a treehouse with a large pile of stones nearby. They approach and are greeted by Solveig, who welcomes them inside. Mickey notices a dead butterfly, and Solveig calmly says it's just as beautiful now as when it was alive. Solveig takes Mickey to her room, where the bed is made entirely of moss. Mickey finds it strange but exciting. Then Solveig shows Jake his room, which is equally bizarre. Jake tells her he's only there to support his daughter and pretend everything will work out. Solveig reminds him that death is already growing inside Mickey and has given her life meaning, while it has stripped Jake of his faith. The film then cuts to a flashback. A village woman begs Solveig to help a pregnant woman whose child was stillborn. The villagers hate and fear Solveig, but they're desperate. Using a small twig, she cuts into the woman's belly and pulls out the lifeless child. The mother survives. Solveig holds the dead baby with an unsettling smile, which horrifies one of the village women. She quickly snatches the tiny corpse away from the witch. In the present, Solveig leads Mickey into the woods and asks when she was first diagnosed with cancer. Mickey says she was 15, and doctors told her she had a 50-50 chance. She eventually recovered, but now the tumor has returned and doctors have given her only 6 months to live. That's why she's come to Solveig. Later, Solveig brings Mickey to an ancient tree, with Jake following at a distance. She places her hand near Mickey's stomach and senses that Mickey can't become a mother because her uterus was removed. Still, she comforts her, saying that even a fruitless tree is still a tree. Solveig then places a ring on Mickey's finger as a symbol of union, explaining that the 2 circles represent life and death. She raises her hands and begins chanting, then suddenly stops and walks away. Jake, unnerved, suggests they leave and find a good doctor instead. Mickey refuses and puts all her trust in Solveig, who has promised to cure her in 3 days. Back at the cabin, Solveig offers them fruit and mushrooms. When they hesitate to say a blessing, she does it herself, chanting a strange prayer while piercing her finger with a twig and letting blood drip onto the food. When she finishes, Jake quietly says Amen. This panics Solveig, who orders him to undo it and spit the word onto the floor. Confused, he does as she says, then reluctantly eats. Suddenly, Solveig grabs the dead butterfly and eats it, shocking both Mickey and Jake. She places her bloody hand in Mickey's and asks them to close their eyes. Mickey then sees a terrifying vision in which Solveig's hands turn into the wrinkled hands of an ancient woman. Sometime later, Solveig is shown in the forest performing a ritual over a dead animal. That night, Mickey wakes up and finds herself wandering into the woods. She sees Solveig naked, covered in blood, and being intimate with something, but the horrifying image turns out to be another vision. In a second flashback, Solveig watches the funeral of the stillborn baby whose mother she saved. Once everyone leaves, Solveig approaches the grave, removes the pile of stones, and digs until she uncovers the baby's body. She lifts the corpse with clear excitement and carries it away. Back in the present, Solveig walks through the forest and finds a nest of snakes. She takes one egg and scrapes a strange substance from the bark of a nearby tree. Back at the cabin, she brews a tea using what she collected and offers it to Jake. He invites Mickey to drink, but Solveig firmly says no, which scares him. He hesitates, but eventually drinks the tea. After this, Solveig takes Mickey into the woods again. Mickey asks if her father has been dosed, but Solveig calmly says she only helped him open his mind. Meanwhile, at the cabin, Jake screams in pain and suddenly starts violently vomiting blood. As he suffers, his eyes are drawn outside, where he glimpses a shriveled female corpse. Elsewhere, by the water, Solveig draws a circle over some rocks and asks Mickey to lie down. She tells Mickey to show her where the tumor is. Mickey points to her belly and says it's about the size of an apple. Solveig pours a little holy water over it and instructs Mickey to sing to the tumor as if it were a baby. As Mickey sings, Solveig slices open the snake egg and pours its contents onto Mickey's stomach. Mickey's belly suddenly rips open in a gruesome wound. She screams in agony while Solveig calmly says this is how it's supposed to be. Later, Solveig and Mickey return to the cabin and find Jake sitting in front of the stone pile. He says he's been vomiting all morning and demands to know what was in the tea. Worried for his daughter, he asks Mickey to show her her progress. She reveals the horrific wound on her belly, and Jake is horrified. Solveig quietly says this is good news because now the tumor is wounded too. Jake doesn't believe her. Solveig insists this isn't much different from when they burned Mickey from the inside with radiation and chemo. She says the cure is always painful. Mickey understands, but Jake remains skeptical. We then see another flashback of Solveig living with the baby she managed to revive. The baby's mother and other villagers discover what she did and are furious. They attack Solveig and snatch the baby away. In the present, Mickey asks Jake what he'll do if the cure fails and she dies. Half joking, he says he'll kill himself too and follow her into the afterlife. Somewhere else, Solveig crushes a bone in her hands until it turns into maggots, all while wearing a strange mask. That night, Solveig serves them meat, saying it's venison, then goes to her room to prepare for tomorrow's ritual. Alone, Jake tells Mickey he's noticed Solveig never really eats. No matter how much he eats, he still feels hungry. He also points out there's no stove or running water in the house, so how did she cook this meat? Mickey still trusts the witch and says she only cares about getting better. She also reveals that Solveig first contacted her in a dream, which is how she knew this place even existed. Later that night, Jake awakes to strange noises outside. He sees a drunk couple throwing rocks at the tall pile of stones. He tells them to stop, but they say it's none of his business. When Jake warns them that it's disrespectful to Solveig, they suddenly become terrified and hurry away. The next morning, Solveig enters a cave in the forest and lies down beside a snake. In a disturbing image, the snake slithers into her mouth. Later, she leads Mickey somewhere again. Mickey asks if her father is coming, but Solveig says he needs some time alone. We see Jake entranced, with maggots moving in his open mouth. Solveig tells Mickey today is the third and final day, but it will be long. Mickey asks if the rituals are working. Solveig assures her she will live, grow old, and eventually die like everyone else. On the way, they pass a deer Solveig revived earlier, and she smiles at the sight. Eventually, they reach the cave entrance. Mickey asks why Solveig is helping her. Solveig says they both heard each other and cryptically calls Mickey's curse her gift. She asks Mickey to sit, then inserts a twig into Mickey's ear, sending her into a trance. Solveig then transfers a large snake from her own throat into Mickey's throat. Sometime later, they return to the cabin. Solveig goes to Jake's room and frees him from his trance. Jake then finds Mickey in a terrible, fragile state, which terrifies him. He insists Solveig is a fraud and won't cure her. He says he's tried to be supportive but has reached his limit and wants them to go home. Mickey refuses and tells him he can leave if he wants, but she will not die because of his fear. Overwhelmed by pain and frustration, she screams at him until he storms out of the woods. Jake heads to a local diner to clear his head. Back at the cabin, Mickey cries as her skin wound causes unbearable pain. Suddenly, she sees a horrific vision of a dead person emerging from the ceiling, freezing her with terror. She starts to wonder if her father was right, and finally decides to run away from the house. Solveig notices her trying to escape. Jake, meanwhile, checks into a local hotel. He tells the receptionist that he came to town looking for a healer for his sick daughter and asks if she knows Solveig. The woman says Solveig is a necromancer who can trick death. She reveals that a couple of 100 years ago, Solveig brought a stillborn baby back to life, but when the villagers found out, they burned the baby, believing it was evil, and buried Solveig alive. The poor woman screamed for her child while trapped underground. The receptionist explains that Solveig's grave is under that same pile of stones where people still throw rocks to keep her from rising again. Horrified, Jake asks who lives in the house in the woods. The woman calmly replies, "There is no house out there." Panicking, Jake rushes to save his daughter. Meanwhile, Mickey runs through the forest trying to escape, while Solveig eerily floats above her. Mickey sees strange faces forming in the trees before Solveig knocks her unconscious. The witch drags her to the pile of stones at her grave. When Mickey wakes, Solveig tells her she suffered for centuries without love, buried in the dirt and mocked by everyone. She explains that Mickey heard her screams under the earth, which finally allowed her to rise. Solveig then uses her twig to cut Mickey's belly open while Mickey screams in pain. The witch plunges her hand inside and pulls out the cancerous tumor. In a shocking moment, Solveig uses dark magic to transform the tumor into a lifeless baby. Overwhelmed with joy, she cradles it and thanks Mickey for giving her this child, while Mickey passes out from blood loss. Sometime later, Jake returns and finds his daughter unconscious and covered in blood in front of the stones. He shakes her awake, and they both notice something impossible. There is no wound on Mickey's bloody body. In another
Solveig is seen
flashback, we
watching as
see
the baby was
villagers
burned
burning the
alive by his
revived
mother.
baby, while Solveig watches helplessly. They then pelt her with stones and bury her alive. In the present, Mickey and Jake dig up Solveig's grave and uncover the skeleton of a woman holding the skeleton of an infant. In the final scene, Mickey and Jake visit a doctor. He reveals that Mickey is completely cancer-free and shows no signs of chemical or radiation damage. He can't believe the results and offers to run more tests, but Mickey calmly says no more tests are needed, as the movie comes to an end.